Good afternoon and welcome, boys and girls, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to the Mara Triangle in Kenya, where it is a very nice 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And we are with some beautiful elephants. And when I say we, I talk about myself. My name is Steve, and Big James is on camera. And welcome to the show once again. And if you have any questions, please speak to your parents or guardians. Send through an email to natgeokids@wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear from you. Send through those questions or comments, and let's see what we can help you with this afternoon. But here we have got the beautiful family of African elephants. And I wonder if you know why I call them African elephants, because there are two species of elephant, well, two commonly known species of elephant, being the African elephant, which obviously occurs in Africa, and the Indian elephant, which, well, occurs in India, which is a continent a little bit further east into Asia than where we are. And the African elephant is much bigger ears, much bigger animal. The body structure and shape is slightly different as well. But on the tip of the trunk, one of the easiest and the most characteristic differences on the tip of the trunk, because the trunk uses there's a vehicle in the background there. We're not the only ones moving around in the Mara Triangle. It is an enormous conservation area with lots of animals for people to come and see. And you see how she's using her trunk to pick up the grasses. And if you look at the tip of her trunk, there are actually two fingers at the end there that she uses for peeling and grabbing and breaking things. She's using a foot as well, whereas the Indian elephant has only got one finger. So that's one of the easy or differences between the two. But you will come back to us shortly with our elephants. I'm not the only one out on drive this afternoon. My good friend David is just around the corner, and he's got another very tall animal.
Hello, boys and girls of Nat Geo, and welcome to my giraffes. You just saw some big animals, which Steve, I'm sure, told you are the largest mammals on land. And I am showing you now the tallest animals in the world. And these are called the Maasai giraffe. My name is David, and on camera with me today is Bungei. Bungei, good afternoon. Please, boys and girls, remember, your questions will make us very happy. Using your parents or your guardians, tell them to send us emails. natgeokids@wildearth.tv is the email address to send your questions or your comments. How exciting to see giraffes just walking together. And to me, those looks like two boys, because if you look on top of their horns, that sometimes we call ossicons, they are a bit flat. They are a bit flat because boys sometimes tend to fight with each other, and by so doing, they get rough or they are bold on the top of their horns. But the girls, like the one you see to the left, they are eating. If you look carefully on top of her horns, there's some like tufts of fur or hair that is still growing. That's how, from a distance, you can tell a boy from a girl. Giraffes are animals that will only eat leaves, or we would call them herbivores, just like the elephants. But there's one difference between the elephant you saw and the giraffes. Giraffes will only eat small leaves or small branches or small twigs. But elephants will eat all that, including the grass. So what I'm saying here is giraffes will not eat grass. Look at that one. So that giraffe just standing up and saying hello to all of you, boys and girls. And I want now to take you all the way to South Africa to see another gentleman who will say hello to all of you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Western Kruger National Park of South Africa, the world's most beautiful country. Close second, of course, is Kenya, and the rest of the world comes See, the elephant is just agreeing with me. My name is James Hendry. It's lovely to have you with us. Please talk to us, of course, or ask your parents to talk to us using the email address questions. What's the email address again? It is natgeokids@wildearth.tv. That's natgeokids@wildearth.tv. It's just because I'm so old that I forgot what was going on. Here we have the elephants, and you will see that what they've done is take all the shade. So we're having to sit here in the sun, and it's about 34 degrees Celsius here, I think. I've forgotten exactly what the temperature is, but probably between 34 and 35 degrees Celsius or so, which puts us around, oh, good grief. It's 38 degrees Celsius here, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, if you can believe it. So it's very, very hot indeed. And the elephants have got the shade, and that very, very, well, what shall we say, very beautiful little elephant has in fact decided that it needs some milk. That's what it was doing there. It was suckling. So nursing from its mother, and that shout you heard, I think, was the mother getting angry with a youngster that's just off to the left-hand side. You can see that one standing in the sun there, and I think the only reason that one's standing in the sun is that the cow, that's what we call the adult females, had a go at him, probably because he was bullying her little one. They don't stand for that, the mothers. Now you will see them flapping their ears, flapping, 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 and that is trying to stay cool. That helps them to stay cool. There's a lot of blood that flows through the ears there, and it goes straight into the brain and keeps the brain cool. So all of the blood in an elephant's body can flow through its ears in about 20 minutes. And so they flap them, you can see there. And that cools the blood, and that goes to the brain, and that helps them stay nice and cool. Because elephants can't sweat. They can sweat a little bit, but not much. And so they need other ways of staying cool. One of the other reasons, or one of the other ways that they stay cool, is with their wrinkly skin. That helps them to stay cool, because what it does, and this is quite a difficult concept, but I'll try and explain it to you, it increases the surface area. All that means basically is that because they've got wrinkly skin, they'll heat up more slowly than an animal that has got smooth skin. And interestingly also, their skin is not waterproof. Tom, yes, you say lots of energy, but the energy is mainly being expended trying to stay cool. And you'll find that elephants like this will try and stay as calm as possible. All animals, in fact, in sun and heat like this will try and stay as calm as possible, because the more they move around, the more active they are, the more they do things, the hotter they'll get. And I'm sure you'll find this lot going towards some water sometime during the course of the afternoon. Throwing of the sand on the body is also helpful, helps the elephants to stay a bit cool. Big, you say, is this real-time live? Well, yes, it is real-time live. I promise you it is real-time live. From 2 locations, not just one. We are here in the Western Kruger of South Africa, and David Katamba Gitu and Steve the Vov is up in the Masai Mara. And in fact, there are 2 herds of elephants here. This is quite a small one. There's a bigger one gathered under that big shady marula tree over there. And you can see them flapping their ears together as well. See? Flappity flap flap. There's a tiny little one there. That's probably only about a year old, maybe a little bit less even. See them all flapping their ears. Now, I suspect a little bit like human beings, you will find that they get used to the heat after a little while. I know that for me, and for a lot of my friends who work out here, the first month of heat after the winter is very difficult to deal with. We find it quite tough to move around. We find it oppressive, which means we sweat a lot and we just feel tired all the time. But after a month or two, you kind of get used to it. And I think that's the same for the elephants. So we're into the kind of really hot parts of the year now. We haven't had a lot of rain, and so it really does feel quite hot and dry. And I think that's why you'll find these elephants quite desperately flapping their ears like that, trying to stay cool. There's not a lot of shade around because we haven't had a lot of rain, and that means that the trees don't have a huge number of leaves on them yet. Zane, interestingly, is a really good question, but interestingly, an elephant actually doesn't really ever stop growing. And so you can't really answer the question, how long does it take for a baby elephant to become a fully grown adult elephant? Because, well, they're adult. I suppose for the cows you could say at around about 13 or 14 years old, because they are ready to have babies by then. But they'll keep growing, and the bulls especially will keep growing, and almost until the day they die. As long as they can eat and get enough food, they'll keep growing. Alrighty, we're going to move away from here simply because it is too hot for us to be here, but David Gatamba Gitu up in the Masai Mara has got a lovely sighting for you.
Good, boys and girls. How lucky you're seeing now elephants for the second time. And I thought I am not going to leave my giraffes, and I'll hang around here so that we could see maybe 3, 4, 5 together. Now, the one you see on the far left, if Bunge, you see the one eating on the far left there. Look at how young she is. It's not an adult, but that's a baby growing, and they will always stay together in a herd and not just alone. And for the reason to stay together is for safety. See how majestic they walk? And apart from being the tallest animals, giraffes also have the longest necks of all the animals in the world. This particular type of giraffe is called the Maasai giraffe. And we've got different types of giraffes in the world. Now, there's one that I saw from a distance sitting down, and I want Bungei to go there and show you. When they sit down, they don't lie down. They remain with their heads upright. Very good. Somewhere there. You see that one there? Very good. There's one just sitting down, which is quite unusual for her to be very good. You see how she sits down? Now, in that position, I'll tell you that giraffe, the neck only, is taller than all of you. They have the tallest necks, they have the tallest legs, and also they happen to have very long tongues. You just saw the tongue come out for a few seconds, and then she quickly put it back in her mouth. When they have eaten so much, they'll just sit there and rest. You see the tongue again? A giraffe tongue could be almost 18 inches. You can imagine, almost going close to 2 feet long. And the reason for that, they need to reach some leaves that are quite far from the bushes they're feeding on. I think she decided just to lay down there and hide her head from you guys. The animals in Africa are grouped. For example, the giraffes, we give them group names. And giraffes together, we would call them a herd of giraffes. But this particular one, instead of saying a herd of giraffes, you can say a tower of giraffes, because they're very tall animals. They are the only animals that are lucky to eat the trees that are very tall, that other animals cannot reach. So I was counting here, we have about 7 giraffes together. Now, the one close to your screen, if you look carefully, she is a bit lighter. And the reason for that is because she is also a bit young. When they get sometimes exposed to the sun for so long, the color might change slightly, and also as they get older. Look at her horns. She looks small, or the horns also look small. And she's staying not very far from the mother. Giraffe Girl, always a pleasure to hear your name. And yes, the giraffes will not have their heads for too long, because for the heart to be able to pump the blood all the way to the head is quite a challenge. So you will notice every few minutes, maybe after 2-3 minutes, they swing the head up just to make sure the pressure remains fine and balanced. Otherwise, what will happen is, if there's so much pressure going to the head, that definitely will not be good for the giraffe. There's an eland right below the neck of that giraffe you see there. There's another animal that just flicking at his tail, and we call it just disappeared, and we call it an eland. And Bungay is trying to go close to her, and he's just staying in the midst of the giraffes, the eland. Giraffes are some of the animals that have the largest hearts, and I think, if I remember very well, their hearts would weigh up to 30 kilograms or 60 pounds. And they need such big hearts to be able to pump blood all over the body without having issues of getting or being under pressure. Now I will leave the giraffes feeding here, and we'll go across to Steve, who have something interesting too.
Thank you, David. Well, we're caught in a little bit of a traffic jam on the road here. The elephants are, well, they're not looking at the road and saying, let's stop the cars coming through. They're just moving through the landscape, feeding on the beautifully luscious green grass that we have up here in the Mara. Unlike down in South Africa, we've had lots of rain in these areas, and there's more rain coming. South Africa's been waiting for rain all season, just coming out of the dry season. The wet season is upon them down there, but it is time of plenty up here in the Mara, as the elephants are absolutely loving feeding on everything on the ground. With their long two-fingered nose, they're able to grab and catch anything they want. Vegetarians they are, feeding on small little forbs, little green plants and grasses, moving as one family, constantly eating. They reckon that a big male elephant needs to feed on about 600 pounds of food a day. Obviously, the younger ones feed on a lot less, but that is a lot of food, which means that all day long that nose is grabbing and putting in the mouth, grabbing and putting in the mouth. They don't have time to rest, constantly eating. You might have seen that giraffe sitting down. Well, when they're sitting down, they've got a very different digestive system, and they're able to rest because they've filled their belly with leaves. The giraffe has, and then they sort of rechew and rechew to get maximum out of the food they've eaten. But elephants have got very badly designed sort of teeth and a digestive system that is designed for dealing with huge amounts of food. Not about quality, it's all about quantity when you're an elephant. And you can see it's picking up a little creeper-like forb that's growing on the ground. They're smelling them in the long grass. They've got very good sense of smell. Like when you walk through the candy store, you know exactly which sweet you're looking for. You could probably close your eyes and find the sweets that you like the most. Rosalind, you want to know how elephants' trunks evolved? Well, when you look at this elephant here, imagine this elephant being about 50 to 75 times smaller, so being maybe the size of a large dog. And they would have lived in a forest area where they were feeding with their mouth, just like most other antelope you see feeding. They would have just put their mouth on the branches and fed that way. But the climate changed, and the climate changed, which means we got less rainfall, and the areas opened up, and what was created was the savanna ecosystem that you see now. The savanna is with trees and lots of grasses. So what it allowed for was for animals to get much, much bigger, because there was a lot more food available. There's not a lot of food actually available in a forest, if you believe it or not, but out here on the grasslands there's lots of food available. So the elephants got bigger, and as they got bigger, their head got bigger well. So they needed these really big pillar-like legs to keep their body weight up. And so their neck got shorter to hold their big head. And as they got bigger and more heavy, with long, powerful pillar-like legs and almost no neck, it became very, very difficult for them to reach any sort of vegetation. So their nose got longer and longer and longer. It's a very long process that happened, evolutionary process. But the elephant is probably one of those most evolved animals that we have. The only one, really, with a nose that's able to do what it does. They drink with the nose by sucking it up the water like a straw, and they pour it into the back of their mouth. They caress each other. They pull branches down. They can pick up fruits. They can help their youngsters if they fall down. And they can pick anything up off the ground and rip bark off of trees. Pachyderm, what a lovely name. You want to know if elephants like fruit of any kind? Elephants love fruit. Absolutely love it. Just like we do. Elephants actually go a little bit crazy for fruit. Out here in the African wilds, there is a lot of fruit, but not the same sort of fruit that we get today. The fruit that we get on our shelves, we've modified and sort of messed with over a very long period of time, but there are lots and lots of plants out here that provide fruit. South Africa as well, I'm sure James will be able to tell you. There's some trees there called the marula tree, which I'm sure is showing some flowers at the moment. Elephants go absolutely crazy for those fruits. And there's a place down in the south of South Africa called Addo Elephant National Park. And down there, around that national park, they used to, and they still do, they harvest and farm lots and lots of oranges. And the problem is they used to feed the elephants oranges around the reserve, and now it is against the law to take oranges into that reserve, because if you do, the elephants will actually break open your car to get at those oranges, which is a real big problem. So they do love fruit, and they can actually peel an orange with those two fingers on their trunk. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little bit from these Ellies. So we're going to move on and see what else we can find, and in the meantime we're going to jump back over to David.
All right, boys and girls, we'll have a bit of a change of seeing so many big animals, and now let us look at an animal that got feathers. And we got an eagle for you here. And I'm sure you know you got the American, the bald eagle. Now this one to me, I guess, is the steppe eagle. And either she got something she's feeding on there on the ground, or she's just waiting for us maybe to move and she'll continue feeding. I do not know exactly what she's doing there. But what these eagles will do, if for example lions, make a kill and have some food, say an impala or an antelope, and then they leave it behind, these eagles will come and leave and eat what's left behind by the lions. That's called carrion. There's something in front of it there. I don't know what it is. To me it looks like some poo of an elephant, but I think she has been trying to open it up. All these elephants who have been showing you, when they eat their food, they do not digest their food very well. And sometimes in the process of eating their food, they also swallow some insects. And sometimes these insects go through the mouth and come out alive. How fun is that, kids, eh? And if that happens, an eagle like this, it's going to open that poo of an elephant and eat those insects. They could be beetles, they could be some worms, and I would guess that's exactly maybe what she's doing with the elephant poo in front of her. Remember, boys and girls, to keep asking us questions through your parents using Nat Geo Kids at waldearth.tv. Terry, how tall is a fully grown elephant? We'll be showing you one, Terry. You'd like to know how tall they get, but I would say they could be anything about 3 meters, which would translate to almost 10 feet. And that's the tallest elephant you might see. That's a fully grown one. And Terry, I hope now you see another bird there. And this one is called a lapwing. It's called a wattled lapwing. Just listen to her. And I hope you can hear that, boys and girls. And she is trying to call the one on the left. You see there are two of them? And lapwings, thank you very much. And lapwings will always stay near water. Most lapwings love water because that's where they get their food. Look at their feet, they are quite long, and that would help them to walk through the water as they look for food, or also on the edge of the water. All right, let's go across quickly to South Africa because James have an interesting animal.
Look what we found here. Now, I said to our camera operator this afternoon, whose name is Senzor, I said to him, I'm sure there'll be a cat in the shade here. And I looked around here and I didn't see anything. And then he said to me, as we pulled away from the dam, he said, there's your leopard in the shade over there. And I thought he was joking, but there she is. Isn't that great? That's magnificent. Now this is a very special leopard. Her name is Thandi, and she is the queen of Djuma. She's nearly 13, which is pretty old for a female leopard. And you see she's got a bit of an injury. She obviously had a fight a little while back, but it seems that she's had that for a while, and she's actually okay. She's not too badly injured. And you know, these leopards, even though it's very dangerous for them to get injured, simply because if they do get injured, it's quite likely that they won't be able to hunt. Even though that is the case, they do scavenge, which means they can steal some food from others. And so she probably would have been stealing some food, and that's why she's still alive. Isn't that amazing? Very nice picture there of a leopard having a drink. And a lot of you probably have met her before and saying how beautiful she is, even though she has an injury. Yes, but I've never met anybody who said that there's an ugly leopard. She does look a little bit thin, so I hope she is eating. I'm just quickly going to call this in on the radio stations. Thandi is at Buffelshoek Dam, if anyone's interested. That means that I'm just telling the other game drives in the area that this leopard is here. Now, I don't know what injured this cat, but I think that it looks to me like it was another cat. It looks to me like there was a big slice on the back there, and I think that could only have been made by the claws of another cat. May have been the teeth of a hyena, but it looks like a knife wound almost, and the only thing that will make a knife wound is the claws of another cat. So I don't know who she had a fight with, but it was obviously a very bad fight. No, Sky, there's no sign that she took something down. There certainly are signs that she's had something to eat simply because she doesn't look that hungry. She does look a bit hungry. She could certainly eat some more. But you know, these leopards are amazing because they can catch just about anything. They can catch birds, they'll eat insects if they have to. She'll eat frogs and terrapins and all sorts of other things. That's why these birds you can hear are going tink, 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 tink. They are alarm calling at our queen. Isn't she lovely? And she doesn't mind this dirty, muddy water. And in fact, if you look at her at that angle, if you look at her uninjured side, she actually looks pretty good. You'll notice a leopard starts to look like they're in trouble or like they're not healthy when their hips start to show, and her hips are not showing. Her hips are fine. She is swollen where the cut is on her belly. She's definitely a little bit swollen there. And that means that there's probably some sort of infection. But this wound is now a few weeks old, I think, at least a week old. Now, a number of our viewers who watch this show often apparently are convinced that this was inflicted, that the injuries were inflicted by a leopard called Sibui, and there are in fact reports that she had a fight with a leopard called Sibui, and so that's probably exactly what happened. Thandi is quite aggressive with other leopards. Many leopards will not actually engage physically with each other, they just growl at each other and on territorial boundaries, but Thandi is not afraid to go in and have a sort of attack, if you like, and I suspect that's got her into trouble this time round. But I think she'll be okay. I don't think she's going to die. Well, we hope. She looks alright to me. See, she's looking around all the time, almost like she's a little bit worried. I'm just going to get my head out the way as she goes past. And I'm just going to sit very still, because this leopard is now very close to us. Beautiful. Yeah, I got a good look there. She could definitely eat. She's not smelling too good. That's actually interesting. That didn't smell nice as she walked past. I smelled a bit of either a smell of dung or something like that. Paula, the birds are chirping. What do you got?
I'm recording.
Okay, sorry about that. We just had to change something on the camera. The reason the birds are calling is because they're alarm calling at her. They think she might pose a danger to them, and so they're warning each other to stay away from her. Okay, let's try and keep up with Thandi. She's disappeared almost immediately. There she goes. All right, well, we'll keep following him. And apparently the Vov up in the Masai Mara has managed to find some of their beautiful birds.
We do have some birds. Sorry about me moving there. Not just some birds, but they are juvenile saddle-billed storks, which to me are one of the coolest things ever. First time I've ever seen them was a month ago in the same area here with the adult. The adult is just in... Oh, the adult's there still. Ah, the adult has moved. Not sure where it's gone, but there are 3 chicks. And they are very cool to see. To the right of the 3 chicks, you can see the white stork there is busy doing a bit of a wing dancing sort of maneuver. That's a yellow-billed stork. It's kind of doing some shady sort of stuff. It's really hard to understand. They normally do that over water as sort of a balancing act so that they can sort of lift one leg up, and also so they can provide some shade for birds, or not birds, for fish to swim underneath. The saddle-billed stork, though, what's interesting is that 3 chicks there, or youngsters, that were hanging out with the adults. I'm not sure where the adult disappeared to, but they were flapping their wings and begging for food. Even though they're able to walk around and fly themselves, they are still begging for food at the moment. And actually, what's interesting is normally they only have successfully about 1 chick every single year. So these have got 3, and they're looking in very, very good condition. And seeing them a month ago for the first time, and now again, makes me very, very happy. Because in South Africa, they're regarded as endangered. They reckon there's only 60 nests in the whole of South Africa, which is a very low number. But up here in Kenya, I don't think they're as threatened. But very nice to see. Did you see where the adult went to, James? He's gone, eh? Lots of birds. I think the adult flew away because the chicks were giving him a hard time. He was trying to maybe catch them some food, or maybe just to hang out with them, do a little bit of father-son time, and all they could do was beg, give me food, give me food, give me food. So he decided, well, I'm out of here. I left them to hang out in the open with the yellow-billed stork. And now it looks like they are going to sit down on the ground. There's another bird behind there called a spur-winged lapwing, just behind that stork on the left. And it's looking for all sorts of insects on the floor. They're all looking for insects. The large birds obviously will feed on fish. Well, that one wants to go for a rock. Isn't that interesting? It's probably still learning. Well, look what I can do with my beak. There might be something hiding underneath the rock. They'll feed on frogs and lizards, crabs, any fish they can catch. But I was hoping the adult would be here for you so you could see. But I'll have to show you a picture because they are probably the prettiest stork. That is an Egyptian goose in the front there. Probably the nastiest sound in the African wilderness. One of the nastiest sounds, in fact. Okay, well here, James, I've got a nice photo in the front here. So here is a picture of the adult. Hopefully you can see it. It's got some beautiful colors. And the name saddle-billed is because if you look at the beak is red with that black line and then that yellow on the top, which almost looks like a saddle, doesn't it? Siddharth, you want to know when the chicks will leave? Well, they've left the nest, but they can stay in the sort of range of the parents for a good year or two before moving off, before going off and finding a mate. It takes them, because they're quite a large bird, it takes them a little bit longer to develop. So about 2 years or so, they'll move off and go find a mate for themselves, and then we'll find a nest and then continue the process of the circle of life. So that's very interesting. We're going to move on. I'm very excited to have been able to find and show you these saddle-billed storks. Very pretty, isn't it, that male? And hopefully he flies back. But for now, I think he's gone off, maybe to go and call his wife and say the kids are misbehaving. It's your turn to look after them. Okay, well, we're going to move off, see what else it is that we can find. But David, on the other side in the marsh, has found something hiding in the bushes.
Boys and girls, now welcome to something different. And we got a rhino or rhinoceros for you, and look at that. Come out, please. Pop up your head. The kids of Nat Geo want to see your face. Please come out. Very good. A little bit better. At least we can see your ears and part of your body. So, boys and girls, this is a rhinoceros or a rhino. And we got two types of rhinos in Africa. One is called the black rhino, and the other one is called the white rhino. And when I talk of black and white, it's not because of the color. It's because of the shape of the mouth. And I will demonstrate to you what I'm talking about. Now, the difference between the two is the same as much as I'm talking black or white. The difference will be on the mouth. Now, the black rhino have a triangular shaped like mouth, like that. All right? That's a black rhino, and that's what we have for you now. A white rhino has like a square-like or a rectangular shaped mouth, because they feed differently. Now we'll go back to the rhino and see if we might be lucky to see her bring her head out. But even if she doesn't, at least now we can tell the difference between black and white rhinos. It's not in the color, it is in the shape of their mouth. Now, the black rhinos, like what we have there, they only tend to eat like giraffes. You remember earlier, I was talking about giraffes eating leaves, small twigs, small branches. That's exactly what the black rhinos will eat. And the shape of the mouth helps them to grasp or to hold. Did you see the two horns on it? The leaves and twigs to pull to the mouth. White rhinos will only eat grass. And another important difference between the two, the black rhino is a bit shy, and because it tends to eat leaves and small branches like that, they tend to remain in the bushes, while the white rhino will be out eating grass. Those are the two differences between the two. So many people have always thought, oh, black rhino is black, white rhino is white. Not really. The difference will be on the mouth. Another important difference between the black and the white, the black rhinos tend to be solitary. They tend to move alone. But when we look at the white rhinos, you'll always see them going in 2s, 3s, or 4s. We're going to wait here a few more minutes and see if she's coming out, and you can see she's trying to turn her head. And let's go back to James and find out what his leopard is doing.
And here we are with our leopard. And what she's done is moved off into the shade. Now, you can tell she's quite old. If you look at her tooth, at the left canine, there we are. You see the canine there? See how blunt it is? That only happens on a cat that's very old. Well, quite old, shall we say. She's not very old, but she is old. And that's from years and years of biting things and crunching and basically eating too many bones with those teeth, I suppose, you could say. Hello, Dancers with Dirt. Leopards deal with pain in much the same way that every other animal has to out here. They don't really have a choice. They just have to kind of deal with it. I think because they realize that there's nothing they can do about it, they don't tend to think too much about it, you know. Obviously, pain has a function, and what pain's function is in all bodies is that it stops movement. So basically what happens is that if your leg is very sore, it starts to swell, or perhaps, maybe it depends what's wrong with it, of course, but the body makes it sore so that you don't move around on that leg, so that it can heal, so that it has time to heal. And that's basically what's happening here. And I think you'll find by this stage, it's 10 days old now, 10 or 12 days old, this injury, I think you'll find that she's okay. It's probably not that sore. You know, like when you get an injury, when you get sore, when you get a cut or a graze or something like that, it hurts like, well, it just hurts really badly for the first hour or so. And then it just gets a little bit less. I imagine that this injury probably hurt her for 2 or 3 days, but then she probably got used to it. And if you saw her walk, you saw her walk a little bit. You saw she wasn't limping at all, so she wasn't showing signs of pain. So I think she's okay. Barbara, I'm not sure that she's lying, or she is actually lying on her wound. I don't think they always do it. She's certainly lying on her wound probably to get rid of the flies, maybe, that are bugging her. The flies will irritate the wound, and if she's lying on the wound, well, then the flies don't get to it. And you know, I know it might seem like the sand and the dirt out here can't be good for a cut or a wound. It's probably not bad for it. It's probably better for it than a whole lot of flies and things sitting all over it. And she'll probably clean it off at night. With her tongue, she'll clean it. And so the irritation of having the flies on the wound probably just made her decide to lie like this. She looks like she's on the hunt for something. It is very hot, of course, but when she walked in here, she was certainly looking. And she's panting like that, of course, because she's very hot, just like those elephants we saw. Oh, this is very exciting. David's animal, very special animal indeed, seems to have come out from behind its bush.
Boys and girls, I told you I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait here until this rhino gives us a good fishy look. And see there, she just put her head up, and you can see she got two horns. One is much longer than the other. Oops, she just put it down. And the other one is a little taller or longer than the other. Now, if you saw carefully, she was moving her ears left and right. And boys and girls, you know, we got all five senses: hearing, smell, sight. For the black rhinos, they have very good hearing sense. Their hearing is very good. They do not see very well, but they can pick up any slight movement in the thicket where they live in. Look at how she's moving her ears. Left, right, up, down. And what she's exactly doing is trying to pick any slight sound. And then she'll know when to move away or when to turn around. That's the other bigger difference between the black and the white rhinos. The white rhinos tend to see better, and they will always be out in the open, unlike this black one here that tend to remain either on the edge of bushes like this or right inside the bushes. And like any other mammal, they keep flicking their tails like that, just in case they got any flies that is coming on their body. And sometimes they do the same for their ears. Boys and girls, remember to keep asking us any questions through your parents or guardians using NatGeoKids at worldearth.tv. Should you have a nice comment like saying, wow, we have seen. Look carefully on the shape of the mouth and you'll see what I was talking about before. It takes the shape of a triangle. And it's like a lip, and that triangular shaped mouth, they use it to catch or to grasp leaves or twigs to feed on. Are you coming to say hello to the kids much closer to the screen? Hello? And you can see she's trying either to sniff or smell something. You notice how she blends in very well with the bushes or thickets there. Rhinos do not have as many enemies like other animals because they are big and they are very strong. But occasionally we see cats like lions trying to get their babies, but the mothers will always come out and defend their babies, just like how your mothers and fathers would protect all of you. She keeps moving back and forth and hoping she'll come out and we shall have a better view. There she goes. So as she moves there, she's not eating any grass. She'll pick a plant, just chew it and swallow and then move on. Look at the ears and see how dark or black they are on the inside. And she turns one left, right, just like a radar to pick sound. Because as I said, their hearing is very acute. You'd imagine in the bushes there, they could not be seeing very well, even 10 meters away from where they are, because it's all thickets and bushes. So what they need to do more is to hear better than anything else. Come out, Rhino, keep coming. The kids want to see you better. In Africa, kids, we got animals that we call the Big Five. I am not sure James might have mentioned to you, but the Big Five are elephants, buffaloes, rhinos, and leopards, not forgetting the lions. And I'll tell you today, you're the luckiest kids because of the Big Five, I guess you have seen the Big Four. So what you have to do is to give me, James, and Steve a lot of pressure to see whether we can get you the lions, and all of you will have a great weekend of having completed the Big Five of Africa. Stop being shy, come forward, and that's very normal behavior for rhinos. If it was a white rhino, it would be out grazing, and they're never shy, and they're never scared of vehicles. They'll be out just doing the thing, grazing. But the black ones are always a bit secretive and a bit shy too. Unless someone would have come and, stopped and looked very carefully there, she also blends in very well with the tree in the background there. There's something that's trying to make it a bit skittish. Veg, why are the giraffes not in the big five? I'll tell you how they ended up. Did it lay down there? How they ended up naming the 5 animals the big 5. I would say it's not because of size. It is because of how aggressive, or let me say, of how dangerous they were and they still are. So giraffe is not as aggressive, I would say, like, a rhino, or like a lion, or like a buffalo, or like, a leopard. Giraffe, if you see giraffes like what we were watching before, and I come out of the car, in general, they're going to move away. But a rhino, if you come out, or a buffalo, or the big 5, as I told you, they might slightly bit come straight to me. That's why giraffe is not one of the big 5. Okay, I think she laid down. We just have to move. But before we move, I want to show you we have a huge wall of rain in front of us. Do you see that? See that big wall of rain? That's the direction we shall be going, and hopefully we might see some lions in that area. But in the meantime, let's go back to South Africa to see the leopard with the gems.
I'm afraid our leopard has not moved, but we're going to stay here because we like leopards very much, and we're going to hope that she does something other than just lie here eventually, and she may well. She might decide to go hunting. She might just decide to go to sleep. That's quite likely as well. Leopards like to sleep. You can see she's just panting and panting away in the hot afternoon. I don't think we're expecting any rain this side of the world. I can see a little bit of cloud build up towards the southwest over the mountains, but so often the clouds do build up on hot afternoons like this, and then they go away without giving us any. It's less and less the case as we move towards December time, when then we'd expect to have a bit more rain than we've had so far. So we'll just hope that that cloud eventually comes this way and gives us some rain. Rosemary, you say you're learning so much from this drive. I'm so pleased. I'm just being quiet because she's seen something or heard something. And she's back to normal. They've got brilliant ears, brilliant noses, and of course superb eyes. And so they're able to see, smell and hear really well. And just, I tell you what I think she was listening to. There's an Egyptian goose making a bit of an alarm calling noise. It goes a bit like this, quack, 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 over at the waterhole. And I think she was probably looking that way, thinking to herself, I wonder if there's another predator over there. Now we know that Tingana, one of our big male leopards from here, is not around here. We know that he's further north of where we are now. And so if there is another predator there, I'm not sure who it would be. But see how she's relaxed, I'm sure that it isn't another predator. She's not sleeping very soundly. She's not got her head down with her eyes shut. So she's resting, but she's certainly not sleeping. Every so often her eyes sort of close, but then they open again. No, pachyderm leopards will avoid conflicts with lions at all costs. A female leopard like this weighs about 1/3 of what a big lioness weighs. And so for her to get into a fight or a conflict with a lion would mean certain death. There we go. And this is fairly typical. We'll just see if she turns around. I don't want to disturb her too much because she's very clearly listening and smelling and looking around the place. And a male lion, of course, weighs about 6 or 7 times what she does. And so there's no ways that she would ever take on a male lion. And a male leopard, still, even the biggest male leopards are much smaller than adult female lions. And so they will not try and fight with lions. They do have conflict from time to time. The lions almost always win, and it almost always results in death for the leopard. So you'll find leopards, one of the reasons they're coloured like that and able to move like they are is that it helps them to avoid any other predators. And lions would be one of the predators that could easily kill them. And quite interestingly, they don't eat leopards. I mean, it's possible that if a lion killed a leopard, it might eat it, but it would be unusual. Quite often they'll just leave the kill. And so they don't kill leopards for food. We think they do it for competition. Looks like she's going to have a little bit of a clean. My only problem with moving here is that I really don't know that in all of this thick bush if we'll get a better view than we have right now. So let's just wait a second. We might get one from the other side. We could try that. While we wait and see, I don't want to move just yet. I'm just going to say to you that, of course, she has got a cub. And her cub is now just over a year old, and we think actually that maybe the cub has already gone independent. Anyway, I'll tell you a bit more about that when I see you next. We're going back up to the Masai Mara now. I think we're going to go and spend some time with Steve the Volve Falconbridge.
Welcome back. How marvellous that is. David's able to show you black rhino, and you're able to see Tundi. I've been trying in this open area to see if we can come across a lion for you to try and add one more to the big five that you've already seen. The elephant, the leopard, the rhino, the black rhino. Have you seen a buffalo? I don't think you've seen buffalo. And then, of course, the next one on the list would be the lion. So this is a nice area to find lions in. We are looking and scanning, see what we can find. You never know. Could be anything around the corner, behind any of the bushes. It's not as hot up here as it is down in South Africa. So Tundi, you see, is sleeping under the bush because it's just too hot to do anything else. Where here, it's much cooler. There is a chance that lions could be moving around. They do spend most of their time sleeping under trees, though, I'll be honest with you. But because the Mara, we're quite sort of in the middle of the continent, close to the equator, and quite high up. So the temperature here is not that bad. Not that hot, I mean. I'm sure James is sweating in his seat there, and Tundi sitting in the shade, panting, trying to cool off. I'm sure she wishes she could just go for a swim in the swimming pool. But there are still a few moments. We might be lucky. Everybody holding thumbs for a lion in the last moments of the drive. I hope so. Or anything really. Lovely just to be out here. The fresh air, the wide open expanses are really good for the soul. Okay, well, we're scanning. And on the other side of the marsh, we come. KD, you want to know which country in Africa is the hottest? I don't know. Sudan, perhaps? Most likely the deserted countries where there's no trees and the sun bakes down on the continent, but I'm not 100% sure. It does get quite hot in the sort of the central parts of the continent, due to the equator and the sun being sort of straight on and straight above. But then also the desert areas get the coldest as well, because there's no vegetation or anything to hold sort of the heat in. But that's a good question. We're quite high here. We're about 1,900 meters. So that is high. So that makes it a little bit cooler. I think for every 100 meters, it's about 1,000 meters, about 6 degrees colder as you go higher. That's why Djuma is so much warmer, because they're so much closer to sea level. The sun baking down on them. Have I taken the wrong road here, James? I've never been on this road before. Never been on this road before, but what a marvellous afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We got to see black rhino, leopards, giraffe and elephants, the wide open expanses of the Masai Mara. I hope we will see you again next week on the Saturday show, which we are doing every single Saturday for the Nat Geo kids. You should all be keeping lists for all the animals that you're seeing on the weeks coming, and see if you can start identifying the birds as you go and the mammals, and see if you can get any new ones, because there's going to be lots and lots and lots of animals over the coming months that you're going to see. And we have seasonal change between sort of winter and summer here and down in Djuma. But thank you for joining us. It has been a wonderful afternoon here for the Nat Geo kids, and we welcome back to the regular show. I hope you are having a wonderful day. We are coming to you live once again from the Mara Triangle. My name is Steve, and the temperature, well, was 30 degrees a while ago. It's dipped. James has already got 2 layers on. So please feel free to send your questions through the normal way through the YouTube chat stream at AFC. Keep your questions relevant if you'd like to hear them answered. And also throw them down on Twitter at #SafariLive. My objective today is just to bumble around and see if we can find anything for you. Who knows? There could be anything out there. We've got David out as well as James down in Djuma. What you'd like to see, and hopefully we can accommodate. Let's go. We're going to head through the marsh area. We spent some time there a little while ago looking to see if there were any lions around, but the primary objective really was to see if there were any serval. I was hoping to find some serval, but they were not around. But talking about James Hendry himself, he is back and alive in Djuma, and he is with, obviously, the leopardess Dundee.
Yes, I am live at Djuma. Hello, everybody. I'm sitting with the Queen. Most of you will know that because I'm sure those questions we got were you guys masquerading as children. Lovely to be with you again here in the Lowveld. Slightly disappointed with the amount of greenery that there is around. I thought it would be much greener than this, but it isn't. Anyway, hopefully some rain will come in the next few weeks or so. Now, there is Tundi, famous Queen. We're not going to talk about Tundi a great deal at the moment. What we're going to talk about is the, well, not to put too fine a point on it, murder of another leopard called Myeni up in Buffelshoek by none other than the Duke of Djuma. Now, I'd love to get your impressions on why he did this. It's not his first time killing a female leopard. It's not his first time eating one either. And apparently he is still up there now. And so I'm no doubt many of you have seen the post by Joost Danhauser of Buffelshoek, and I'm sure many of you have got some opinions as to why it is that Tingana took it upon himself to commit murder again. Remember, the last one he killed was a leopardess called Shiluva, and he killed Shiluva in the wake of her mating with Mvula, we think, but nobody knows for sure. Paula, it's unlikely that he wanted to mate with her because, females initiate the mating. It's not impossible, but I think it's unlikely. I don't know who she is, but yours seems to think that she's the daughter of that skittish female who Tingana mated with about, 4 or 5 weeks ago, which could mean that he's picked up on a leopardess that is not his. In other words, it's infanticide, basically, where he's killed a leopardess who is not his own offspring. She's obviously just gone independent, perhaps, and not an adult, and maybe that's why. I don't know. Tax on. We've also got Thandi here at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm just telling Taxon that we have Thandi here. You heard that, I'm sure. Taxon is a guide from Juma. Thandi, I've got Thandi here. It's me on the radio again. Sean, yes, again, he killed another female, and the pictures are quite horrific. If you want to go to have a look at them, I advise you to do so with caution. But you can go and have a look at I forget the page. I think it's the Juma Junkies Leopards page, or the Leopards of Juma Facebook page. You'll find it over there. And Joost Danhauser, who is one of the landowners at Buffelshoek, posted some photographs there. His son watched the whole thing last night, and it'd be quite nice to go and actually have a chat to him and find out, how it felt. And of course, there's thousands of things to discuss about this, from the most basic, why did he do it, all the way up to the most sort of, I suppose, ethereal, what of the cruelty of nature? Do people feel more or less sympathy for the dead leopardess than they do for little Scoobit, who we all got to know at the pan? Senzel's giggling now. Anyway, I don't know. It's really quite difficult to fathom. And I guess this is the danger that we have when we anthropomorphisize these animals. We've anthropomorphized Tingana to the nth degree. He's the Duke of Juma. We've talked about him as our favorite. We've talked about him as our, very, as our favorite. We've talked about him as the old dominant of the area. We've painted him in a very heroic light as this old fellow who's survived so long. And yet he is now a bit of a villain to us. But of course, he isn't a villain. He's just behaving like leopards behave. Very interesting. You can also apparently see the pictures on Tingana's very own Facebook page. He posted them himself today. It's obviously facetious. He didn't post them at all. He doesn't have a camera. He probably just shared them. I wondered until it was told to me that Thandi had fought with Sibuyi whether or not Tingana hadn't done that to her, but I'm glad he hasn't. Anyway, we'll wait to confirm. I'd like for some of you guys, I'm sure you guys, James, Richard, and the rest of you who love leopards so much have gone to those pictures and possibly tried to identify Mieni. I don't think we've seen her before. I don't think she was the skittish female that Tingana was mating with. Certainly yours didn't think she was. So perhaps the skittish female's daughter, I don't know, and perhaps... Look, from the pictures, I don't know how old she was. She looked to me like she was probably about 14 months, but that's a wild guess from the photographs that I saw. Maybe 14 months is just still a little bit too young for Tingana to have thought, well, there's an adult. Maybe he thought there's a cub and it's not mine, and so I must be dealt with. But I really couldn't say why on earth he decided that this was the right course of action. Anyway, Thandi is quite peaceful. I'm pretty convinced that she is going to survive those injuries. I don't think they're going to harm her at all. I'm sure she's going to be able to hunt fairly soon. And so that's great. We're going to sit here with her. I don't want to leave the great queen. Let's go back up to the Masai Mara, where David Gatamba Gitu has found an elephant that is apparently mining.
Well, to our regular viewers, I now have what I would call regular elephants, because look at that. And the one on the left is having a drink. But I'm sure none of you can see the water. You might wonder, what am I talking about? But you can clearly see she's definitely drinking water. For those who have been following me, I have always said elephants are my favorite animals for so many reasons. And one of the other reasons is they're very intelligent animals. Now, if you look at the youngster there, she's drinking water, and look at the condition of that water. Doesn't look very clear, and either she's just dipping her trunk in and sucking some drops, but the one, you see, she didn't take a long time there, and she's like, it doesn't taste very good. So what the big one has done is using her feet and tusks and trunk to dig a hole in the sand, and fresh water has popped up. How clever is that? Now she's sucking the fresh, clean water, and once she got enough in the trunk, she's going to bring it all the way to the mouth. How cool is that? Remember, this is a very interactive safari drive we do. Should you have any questions or comments, send them through using hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Intelligent animals, they are elephants, that they can smell basically and know at what point they're going to get water and maybe how deep it is. More often than not, the point they choose to dig the water, they are always right, and they don't make many mistakes. And how clever. I'm trying to imagine the water coming out there is so clean, so pure, and good for their bodies. So this youngster was there for just a couple of seconds, scooped a few drops and didn't like it, and see now maybe she's trying to widen the water hole. See the difference between her feet and the head of that Ellie. And it's drinking the water, and you can just hear as the water is being put in the mouth. Whoosh. We now cracked lots of water here they're drinking, and just to the right, on top of that bungay, do you see that nest there? That's a hammerkop nest, and hammerkops are some of the little birds that make very huge nests. Look at the size of that nest. If you see the size of the bird that makes that, is pretty small. Anyway, I thought I saw movement there, but there's nothing. Let's go back to our drinking elephant. Thank you, Bungay, for that. This one must be very thirsty. She hasn't allowed the other one yet to come to the water hole. Chris, you were wondering, do all elephants know how to dig for water? I would say I am not very sure, but my guess is I would say yes. What would happen is elephants tend to learn a lot from the others. They'll always see the adults, what they do, and they grow doing the same thing. So Chris, I would say most possibly they do. They look very carefully what the adults are doing, and in their lifetime, they always copy doing the same. Either she's trying to sieve some of the water, she's just blowing it up, but she takes some time to suck it, because I think definitely it doesn't have pressure. She has to create maybe some vacuum in her trunk for the water to come up, and then sucks the water, and then all the way to the mouth. Excellent. And it's time you allow the other Ellie to have a drink too. Not sure which one dug the water, is this one or the other one. And now very quickly to have a look at the other type of water that is in front there. And look at the condition of that water. It's full of cobwebs and frog nests, I would say. And doesn't look very dirty, not because it has been made dirty by anybody, but I say it has been standing there for a long time. And with all the intelligence of the elephants, they will not even bother to drink that water. Most likely, it will not be good for their tummies. And then they'll choose to dig their own fresh water, making them my favorite animals, and that's one of the main reasons I would say they are, because of their intelligence. It's time you allow the youngsters to drink some water. Well, that's pretty exciting for me. I haven't seen this for quite some time, but now let's go to some spotted guitars with Steve.
Thanks, David. I wonder if it's the same hole in the river there by the hummercorp nest on the river, on the bridge. Might be. It's definitely you see animals who use them again and again, especially the elephants. And it seems like we found Waffles with her. Well, there's 3 youngsters here. We're kind of in the area of the North Clans, a little bit to the side of what I'm used to being in, but maybe they've just moved dens only slightly due to the fact that, well, the fleas and parasites that develop in a den site get a little bit smelly as well, and they generally will move their puppies or cubs, whatever you like to call them, due to that sort of thing. But in saying that, here comes another one from behind. So there's 5 youngsters here with one adult who I'm thinking is Waffles because of the collar. She's quite big, beautiful, well, in a hyena kind of way. And I haven't actually seen her this time around with any of these youngsters, and, well, they have grown somewhat. We were just basically coming through just to have a little look. Still looking for the serval with the little youngsters. And, well, we haven't had any luck so far. But hyena will always please many of you back home, I know. There's been lots of tweets of late that said since Wild Earth has been showing everybody, or SafariLive been showing everybody hyena, they've come to love them. Initially it was all about leopards and lions, but the wafflets and the behavior and the amount of time Jamie spent with him has really opened a new world for everybody. And to be able to see them out and playing is very, very special. So I hope they're going to play. There's a little more licking than playing happening at the moment, but there might be some action. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. It's not looking too vigorous. They're looking up at the sky. There is a little bit of rain on the distance. Oh, there we go. Scratching time. One individual on duty. They've all grown. The spots are starting to come through. Last time I saw them, they were pitch black. They're catching up to their counterparts. And last time I see, I think I only spotted 3 in the area. But there's at least 5 here at the moment. And I remember Waffles having the 2 smaller of the group. I'm going to assume it's these 2 darker ones, one on the left there and one out of shot on the right. Barbara, they are very cute for this time period. They can be cute I think all babies are cute for a certain period of their life, and, well, then adulthood takes over, and then you become as attractive as Waffles does. And they are very interested. Maybe they'll come a little bit closer. We're not sure. Well, it seems like it is thirsty work this afternoon, and elephants are making a good show of the whole.
Well, we haven't moved, but things here are getting even more merrier because we have two new elephants that have joined, and one of them is a very small calf who I do not think she wants to drink the water. She wants to drink the milk. How cool is this? And ladies and gentlemen, I want to include more people, more audience in this exciting sighting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Mara Triangle in Kenya, and we are having such a wonderful sighting. My name is David, and with me on camera is Bungei. Bungei, how are you? And we're in the Mara Triangle in Kenya with such an exciting sighting of elephants that just dug some water for themselves on some river bend. At the moment, it's a bit dry in Kenya. We are waiting for the short trains to come, and because it's dry, elephants are very intelligent animals, and they will know where to get themselves fresh and clean water. If we move to the foreground a little bit, you can see, I will show you some more water. Do you see that water there? That water is naturally there. It's like a small well, but elephants can tell that water is not good for them, and for that reason, they'll dig fresh water. Lima, I guess your question, do baby Ellis drink water? Yes, baby Ellis will drink water, but at the moment you can see a very small baby there, Lima, not drinking water, but drinking or nursing from the mother. How exciting is this? So the mother is drinking water and the baby is drinking milk from the mother. How exciting. Remember, we are 100% live from the Mara Triangle in Kenya, and should you have any questions like the one I just got, please send them through. Should you have any comment, using hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Mark, thank you very much. How wonderful is this? I am equally amazed, and Mark, I'll tell you, it's quite some time since I saw this kind of behavior of elephants. Just to let all of you know, elephants are my favorite animals. Number one, because of their intelligence, and two, they'll always keep you busy. Sally, what they're doing, they will use their feet and trunks and the tusk to dig the water, and then just using their trunk, they just suck the water from the sand, and if any sand will be in the water, they just blow it out. Very intelligent animals. You know, the end of the trunk is open, because that's like their nose, so that's what they'll just stop breathing for some time and suck in the water, and then take it all the way to the mouth. You notice they're all flapping their ears because it's a bit warm. Sorry, that was my zip of my jacket because it's also getting a bit warm for me. And how exciting is this, eh? They have been drinking in tons, and that is how how clever animals, these animals are. If you look at that one carefully, the one on the left, you notice she got one tusk. The rest got two tusks each. But what would happen, it could have either been a genetic reason, or sometimes as they dig water like this, or when they break trees, they also break their tusks, unfortunately. But we have also seen elephants that genetically are born with one tusk, and a few that are born without any tusks. Now, one major difference between the elephants in Africa and, for example, Indian or the Asian elephants, our elephants here, both of them got tusks. I'm talking about both males and females. But the Asian or the Indian elephants, the tusks will only be found in the males and not on the females. So elephants' ears are very, very crucial to them, because that's where all the cooling of the blood is done. They actually carry radiators, so an elephant can survive without a tusk, but not the ear. Mario would like to know if elephants only breathe through their trunks. I would say elephants are just like human beings. We can comfortably breathe through our noses, but at times we can hold our noses and breathe through the mouth. Elephants, Mario would say, they would do the same. Because you would imagine, like now, when they're sucking the water, the breathing has to continue. When they are, like, picking something using the tusk and they block the airways through the nose, the breathing has to continue. And I would assume they breathe through their mouth. Look at that tiny baby. Do you want a drink also? She is learning a lot. She's so small. And I'm sure she is running a lot from the fully grown Ellis. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for having joined us on this exciting sighting from the Mara Triangle. And I would request you to be on the lookout. We might be sending you more notifications much later and such exciting moment. Thank you so very much for watching, and remember, we shall still continue broadcasting live on the YouTube. For now, from me, David and Bungay, thank you and goodbye. Welcome back, everyone else, and the exciting sighting continues, and you can see the baby now have stopped nursing or drinking the milk, and I think now she wants to drink water. This is exactly what I was saying, how elephants will always learn from, when they're very young, and they'll see what their adults are doing, and maybe one day they'll be digging their own water if the rivers, the streams, and the wells will dry. Well, I'll leave them to enjoy their drink. I'll move on, and in the meantime, we'll take your cruise back to South Africa, to James.
Well, here we are with Tundi. She has turned around, and now her head is firmly on the ground. I didn't mean to do that, but you saw what I did there. If you would like to continue discussing the tragic tale of Miela and her untimely demise at the teeth and claws of Tingana, our favourite Duke, well, by all means, send through your questions and comments to #SafariLive on Twitter, or use the chat stream on YouTube. I know many of you have been backing and forthing with various theories and comments about the sad situation, and whether indeed it is sad or not, and why on earth he should have chosen to do it. So just to reiterate, Joost Danhauser does think that Miela was the daughter of the skittish female up north, and that her father was most likely Gijima. So I think that we're looking at a fairly simple case of infanticide. I don't know how old that leopard was, though. Also, of course, Tingana's territory has shrunk slightly, and I wonder if he isn't sort of trying to expand again. He's feeling good enough, strong enough, trying to expand his domain, and he's pushed north into a bit of Gijima's territory, which inevitably means that he's going to push into another female's territory, and now he's finding things he don't like so much. Philip, when Tingana took Mvula's territory, there were no young cubs here as far as I remember. Quarantine and Kunyuma, who's now known as the Senegal bushmale at Mala Mala, they would have been much too old for him to kill. They would have left. They had left by the time Tingana came into this area. So, no, I don't think Tingana did kill any of Mvula's offspring here. He killed Mvula's consort, so after he'd taken Mvula's territory, he went north into Buffelshoek one day, where Mvula kind of retired. Mvula was a very interesting case. He wasn't a big leopard, and he lost condition quite early on in his dotage, if you like, and he went off to Buffelshoek to live, and he just that's the property to the reserve to the north of us, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. So it's a reserve to the north of us where we're not allowed to go. But Mvula just kind of went there and almost retired, so he stopped being territorial. He set himself up, he killed and he scavenged, and then he met Shiluva and they mated, and we thought this is very interesting. This non-territorial male could in fact have cubs. Well, Tingana took a very, very dim view of the fact that Shiluva had mated with Mvula and he killed her. Whether or not that was the reason, I don't know. No one knows, but he killed Shiluva and he ate her as well. So it is very strange. I haven't heard of this before. I doubt it's the first time that male leopards have killed females like this. I just haven't heard of it before. I haven't seen it before. But it is very interesting. I suspect that's precisely what he did. You know, would he track and hunt another leopard? Yes, I think he would. I don't know if he did that with this thing. I mean, he could easily have just come across her. But you know, for a very long time, he didn't go into Buffelshoek. He stayed on Djuma, and his territory was really pretty small for a male leopard of this area. I was working it out with Sydney today. We were chatting about the size of Tingana's territory. And you know, when he was sick, he didn't leave Chitwa Dam, and then he slowly kind of started expanding again to round about 1,200 square kilometers, at least, not square kilometers, hectares, so 12 square kilometers. For a while, it was roughly that size. And now he's expanded a bit north into Buffelshoek, a bit east into Torchwood, and I think he's probably sitting at about 20 square kilometers or so, which must be roughly, 12 square miles or so. And perhaps he's looking to expand further and take the territory that skittish female lives in. It's interesting. I would have thought it strange because the pressure that he's receiving has been coming from the north, from Gijima, and from the east, from Quarantine, a little bit from the south, from Umfogazi, but Umfogazi seems to, according to Tristan, never have held a territory, despite being an adult male leopard, so I really don't know. I'm afraid I missed that, Emma. I was yakking away, and then I tried to store it in a piece of my brain, but that piece of brain didn't work properly. Right. Ozzy Bonnie, he tolerates Hosana simply because Hosana is his son. And he knows Hosana is his son. And if there has ever been, I mean, we've often discussed how or if these animals recognize each other and whether they know that they're related to each other, and I think the answer's right there. I don't think there's any doubt at all. Rex, we are at Buffelshoek Dam on the northern side of the wall. I'm just trying to help Rexon come in. Thank you very much. He's just welcoming me back. That was very nice of him. So, yeah, Ozzy Bonnie, we're pretty sure that it's because he recognizes him. Remember that picture that Tristan managed to get on video with this spectacular scene in the golden morning light of Tlalamba approaching Tingana and actually touching his nose with her nose. And it was a very special, heart-warming, but also kind of heart-stopping moment when we thought, what's he going to do here? And he reacted with amazing patience and unexpected patience, and I'm 99% sure that's because he recognized Tlalamba as his daughter, as the daughter of Tandi, his consort, who is obviously, or not obviously, but I'm going to postulate that Mieni he recognized as a stranger. And perhaps she just wasn't quite separated from her mother enough for, at that sort of age where a male leopard might think, now this is all unconscious of course, where a male leopard might think that killing her would bring the mother into estrus. he probably didn't know whose daughter she was. You know, so they'll go into an area like that, and depending on their instinct, depending on their experience, they'll kill all of the leopards below a certain age, hoping that the females in the area will come back into estrus. And I think that's probably what's happened here. I don't know for sure. I've just been reading, while we've been off air, I've got a little mammal book that I like to sort of dip into from time to time, and I was reading about chimpanzees, and of course chimpanzees do exactly the same thing, where males that take over or males that come across, let me say that again, where females that leave their kind of natal group and move into another community, they call them communities with chimpanzees, if they bring their offspring with them, most of the time those offspring will be killed, and they'll come back into estrus, and the males will then mate with that female, or the dominant males will mate with that female. It happens in baboons, it happens in what other species obviously happens? We know it happens with lions. I don't think it happens too much with many of the herbivores, but it certainly happens in primates and probably all of the carnivores. So infanticide is a hugely important driver actually in mammal evolution, and if you go delve into infanticide and its reasons and why it happens and how much it happens, it really is interesting how profoundly it has driven the behavior and evolution of mammal species. Let's go back to Thandi, as magnificent as I am to look at. Hey, Senzo? Righty, there is a storm blowing up from the southwest here, but David Gatambageto is about to have tea in his storm.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do not know how many of you can see me. And this morning when we were out on the drive around 6:30, said the chances we might get some rain today. And I'm not sure to say we are having cats and dogs. I want to say we are having buffaloes and elephants. And rain or storms have just started. And if you look carefully, all the flaps are down, front, back, left, right. But I still can see where I am going. And because of the rain, it has gotten darker very quickly.
Sorry about that. David, of course, is having a little bit of trouble with the storm. Steve is apparently also having a bit of trouble with the storm. And so here we are at Djuma again with our leopard, Thandi. I think I've waffled sufficiently about Tingana now. I think through the process of waffling about him, I have decided on why he killed that youngster. Christine, let me just check my map. I do know that it was on the corner of Dollarite Road and Rhino Cut Line. Those are two roads in Beefles Hook. And I, unfortunately, do not know where those roads are, but I do have a map. The reason I don't know where they are, of course, is because I'm not a trespasser. Right, so there is... No, Cruise Cut Line, sorry. And Dollarite Road. Let me just look a second. I will be able to... Ah, there it is. Not very far. Yeah, not very far at all, actually. Probably about, I'm going to say, half a mile as the crow flies. Yeah, about half a mile as the crow flies. Maybe a little bit more. Say 2/3 of a mile as the crow flies, 800 meters. No, that is half a mile, sorry. So between 800 meters and a kilometer. Kathy, I think Thandi is quite hungry. I don't think she's desperately hungry, though. She's got a bit of meat in her belly. And now you can see it's just cooled down. The sun's going behind the clouds that have come up. And so she's not panting quite so hard. And I think that she's relaxed a little bit more. But you can see her belly is quite full. I was a little worried about the smell during the kids' drive when she walked past me. It smelled like rotting, and either she hasn't, not to put too fine a point on it, wiped her bottom correctly, and there's a bit of residual poo-poo sitting back there behind her tail, as happens with cats from time to time, or there is a little bit of festering going on in the wound. And it looked to me like the left-hand side of her stomach was actually swollen, so I don't know if there isn't some kind of infection there. Now, these animals, of course, are very good at dealing with any kind of, what shall we say, any kind of infection. They're very good at dealing with them. And apparently a number of you mentioned the little bump this morning with Sydney, and it's possible that there's an infection there, and that's what's smelling. And of course that will affect her ability to hunt. If she is fighting off an infection, it will make her feel like you feel when you've got a bad cold or flu. I suspect she'll get over it. I am constantly amazed. You read history novels or history books, and of course one of the greatest killers of human beings before the advent of penicillin and antibiotics and general antiseptics, of course, was infection caused by wounds. And those wounds would have been inflicted by swords or knives or whatever it was. And it's amazing how many people became infected and then you knew they were going to die. You gave them 5 or 6 days, the wound started to stink, and, well, if it was a wound on the arm or something like that, you could chop it off, but if it was a wound somewhere else, there was no chance, and people died. So we don't have anything like the same ability. Look at her, it was quite eerie the way she did that. We don't have anything like the ability to fight off infection that these wild animals do. That is, of course, because we didn't evolve to have knives and rusty swords stuck in us. And Bridget, a change in diet no, I don't think it would cause a stomach issue. Everything here that there is for her to eat, she's evolved to eat. And so, no, I don't think a change in diet would create too much of a stomach issue. I've seen her eating the most rotten, putrefied meat, and she's been absolutely fine with it. So, no, I don't think that would make any difference at all. I'm going to be interested here to see how she reacts when the second vehicle comes in. She's been completely relaxed with us, hasn't once given us one of her telltale irritated smiles that she likes to give from time to time. And let's just see what happens when this other vehicle comes in. A bit of drip of moisture coming from her nose there. I don't know, yeah, a few of them. No, I don't know if that's mucus or just plain water because it's hot, and I suspect it's just water because it's hot actually. Just condensed water. She's a little bit hot still, of course. Imagine wearing that fur coat out here. Henry, no updates on Tlelamba. Apparently she was off in Torchwood, and I had a horrible heart-stopping moment at one stage when we heard that Tingana had killed a young female. I thought maybe it had been Tlelamba, but obviously it wasn't. I'm just going to sneak forward a little bit because we've got a great view, but Rex doesn't have a nice view. So I'll just nip forward a little bit so he can get a better view. And you still see this, and there's always that branch now in your way. Yeah? I keep thinking they're going to link away from me to somebody else at Juma, but I've just realised I'm the only one here. So I'm afraid it is just me. That's hopeless, isn't it? Let me just do that. There we go. Phew. Yeah, one. So that's marvellous. So you're stuck with me until our rehearsal begins, of course, at 6:30 Central African time. Hello, Donald. The way we tell them apart is that we dip their tails in paint. So the end of Tandi's tail is a royal blue colour. You just can't see it from here. and she's royal blue because, of course, she is the queen. The princess has got a kind of reddish dip on it. Tingana's got gold on his because he's a duke. I'm obviously talking rubbish. We tell them apart quite interestingly just through experience and through knowing where they are. Some people are very good at identifying a leopard just on sight. I'm not one of those people. So I know this is Thandi because of where we are. I have seen this leopard now, of course, hundreds of times, so she's actually relatively easy for me to identify. But if you're in an area where you don't know the leopards so well, their territories are a good way to tell, and also the spot pattern. Ooh, there's some elephants walking away from Buffelshoek Dam that Senzo's just spotted. We'll just have a quick look there. There's the waterhole. So Buffelshoek Dam, of course, a waterhole in the northeast corner of Djuma, where we find ourselves. And so just to quickly get back to how we identify her, we'd look at the spot pattern or whisker pattern. I think that's a log, Senzo, not a bat-eared fox. Bad luck. So the spots above the whiskers, but also all the spots are different, which on every leopard. And so, if you can recognize some kind of spot pattern on the head or on the necklace, which is the arrangement of spots under the throat, well, then you can identify a leopard. But if you were to keep watching this show for any length of time, you too would quickly be able to tell between the leopards. Some of our viewers are just phenomenal. You can show them one hair on the black tail and they'll know exactly who it is. Dances with Dirt, your question slightly loaded there. You say, what do I think is the top killer of leopards other than Tingana? Well, the top killer of baby leopards is Tingana and his ilk. Apparently 80%, research shows, of cub mortality in the Sabi Sands, and therefore possibly in other areas as well, is caused by unrelated male leopards, so infanticide, basically. In terms of adults, I suspect it's lions, almost certainly the most frequent killers of adult leopards, but I don't think that happens very often. I think leopards kill each other quite frequently as well. There's still quite a lot of pretty viable theory, if you like, that Thandi was responsible for the death of Shongile. Now, Shongile was Hosana's sister. They were born to Thandi's mother, Karula, so they were brother and sister as well of Thandi. It's all very complicated, unless you draw it. And, Thandi did attack Shongile, and that was the last we saw of Shongile. So, it's possible that Shongile was killed by not a male leopard, but by a female. We don't know that for sure. Many people will now be lying on the floor next to their YouTube screens, fanning themselves in either rage or shock. But it is possible that Thandi killed the beloved Shongile. She was my favorite leopard, by the way. And Tingana is sort of my favorite leopard now, although it's not very fashionable to say that today. Sorry, pretty Canadian, I missed your question. I turned my volume down briefly by mistake. It's a really interesting question, that. Elephants react to just about all predators in a manner that can only be described as, well, how would you describe it? You would describe it as panicked and over concerned. They react to wild dogs as though they've seen the Armageddon coming towards them, but there's no ways a wild dog is ever going to kill an elephant, so it's bizarre. They react to lions extremely poorly. Yes, lions do kill small elephants sometimes, from time to time. They don't like hyenas much. I actually haven't seen them too much around leopards, but I suspect they would take a fairly dim view of leopards. Maritza, I don't know when we're going to get some rain here. I haven't looked at the weather forecast, but, you know, finally these afternoon storms look like they're starting to build, which normally means we're about 2 or 3 weeks out. Of course, saying that with any kind of authority is almost certainly going to leave me with a large amount of eggies on my face. So I don't know. I'm hoping very soon. Right. Apparently there's a tiny impala ram on the dam cam. Say that again. How do you know it's a ram? This is Emma talking to me from the final control. Oh, there's a baby impala lamb on the dam cam. Everybody go and have a look. You can't feed it in and while I keep talking, can you, Emma? We'll just see if we can do that technically, because of course I am on my own here. She's trying. No, we can't. Alex is shaking his head at her saying no, not possible right now. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do now. I'm going to leave this cat because Pat is going to come in and take over the cat for our rehearsal. We've had a good time with her. There are a couple of other vehicles that want to get in. So let's see if we can't quickly get perhaps across to the baby lamb at the dam cam. Now, this would normally be the time that we link away to someone else, but there's only me, so we're not going to. Here we go. Right, let me get out of the way. Lots of bushes here. I'm just going to ask Emma. Oh, we have got the dam cam. Yes, that's what I meant, Em. I'll talk over it if you want to show them. Right. We are now cutting to the dam cam. There we go, everybody. Now you can see the dam cam, and you can see the baby, and you can see the little lamb with her mother. Now, I would have thought this was very early for a young leopard. Not leopard, it's not a hyena either. It's a young impala. I would have thought that's quite early for young impalas. I would have expected sort of, I think I would have said 1st of December, so I'd have been 2 weeks out. And apparently the new one is now very frightened of ox pacars, which it is going to have to get over if it wishes to contend with the myriad parasites in the environment to which it has been born. That is the little baby impala. And while you look at that, I am going to claim, of course, that I am the great winner of the Woodland Kingfisher competition. Apparently Leo Smith also said the 16th of November, but unfortunately he was on leave, and so it doesn't count. So I am the winner, and he is not the winner. The Woodland Kingfishers are back. We know this because you chaps have heard them. And now apparently you can see the little lamb behind a bush. Anyway, I'm just going to tell Pat here where the leopard is, and he's going to go off towards the leopard, I think, for our rehearsal. So while you enjoy the lamb, you'll just hear me having a quick word with him. A gorgeous sunrise there. Sunset, sorry. Hello. We are unfortunately on solo drive at the moment because there's no Mara, which is fine. I've told them I was going to come and talk to you. You saw where we were. Cat is just in there, so just pop in there. She's very flat, quite nice, easy sighting. The pink and the moustache are spectacular together. When you behold Pat and his new hat and moustache, you're going to be amazed. Let's now have a look at the sun going down. Is that not gorgeous? Okay, it was very lovely. Sorry, I went silent there because I was watching Pat turn his car around, and it looked a little bit like he might end up in a ditch for the duration of the rehearsal. But he has managed to avoid that eventuality and is now on his way to Tundi. I'm taking a legal picture. Very nice. Thank you. And many of you are taking beautiful screenshots, no doubt, of this very attractive scene. Oh, stunning. Well, let's hope that lamb has better luck than Scoobert, but Mother Nature and I are, well, I'm not going to say we're not speaking, but every time I think we come to an understanding where I seem to come to terms with her way of ending and giving and bringing life, something like the leopard event happens or Scoobert happens, and I realise that I have not quite come to terms with her, despite my many, many years living in her wilderness. Such is the way of life and death. Thank you, Emma. Emma says it was very emotional with the sunset background. We'd also have some elephants here. They are just behind us. Behind you, Senzo. Senzo, I must just tell you, has been spending a little bit of time in our gymnasium, and his left bicep is really swelled quite impressively. I, of course, spend hours in the gymnasium and nothing happens at all. I remain looking the same as I did when I was 12. But Senzo is not so afflicted and he's now pulling it for me. It's very impressive. Let's go to the elephants. There we go. Maybe it's a lesson there that I need to spend less time. Since I'm going to adopt your lifestyle as of today. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous scene here, because although it's fairly bleak landscape-wise, the setting sun has bathed it in gold, and there is a really nice sign of new life. Those buds on a silver cluster leaf tree there. The elephant is just having a little bit of a smell at. He's a young elephant. I always think elephants at times of sadness are great to look at, because they are, dare I anthropomorphisize again, but they are in many respects, I think, the most similar to us in character. Just lovely. Now the rest of the herd was clearly having a bit of a drink in a mud bath. Senzo actually said to me as we arrived at Buffelshoek Dam, he said, did anything actually drink this muddy water? And of course the answer is yes. Everything just about, except for what you're looking at there. Elephants, if they can, will actively walk much larger distances to get fresher water, and you'll find them at the pan. If this dryness continues, you will find them at the Djuma pan and at the Galago pan, both of which are near our camp and both of which are pumped. You will find them travelling great distances so that they can have some fresh water, as opposed to the muddy hippo poo, buffalo dung, rhino dung, elephant dung, terrapin dung infested water that we have here. Maureen, the variation in Ellie pigment, is there a variation in their pigment? You know, their colour is given to them by melanin, and, you know, there are some who have got a bit more melanin than others, some that are slightly leucistic. Some of them get much darker, of course, because they've just got a lot of mud on them, and there is very dark mud here at Buffelshoek Waterhole. Now, Buffelshoek, what should we call it? Moonscape. And that's why they're of different colour, I suppose. You do get elephants that are albinos, that have no melanin, no pigment at all. They're a bit pink. And you also get elephants that are slightly leucistic, which means they have slightly less pigment, but not none. Here we go. Let's continue. We do not have long left. Yes, thank you, Emma. Emma says she's closing the show with us. That is, of course, because we're the only feed to close with. We'll see if we can get you one more wildlife sighting. Look, they're the worst parents in the world, and look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. Sorry. Look what they're doing. They're taking their little goslings for a walk at night. Now, if you haven't noted or haven't been with us before, these two geese have yet to raise a successful clutch, and it's because they're incompetent. They keep taking their youngsters into hazardous situations and then wondering why none of them survive. Anyway, my anger is now overwhelming. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful drive. It's been a beautiful afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.